Welcome to the Garage Network podcast. Join us and the occasional special guest as we discuss everything automotive, from fixing cars as a technician, owning an automotive workshop or business, overall work-life balance, and even the occasional laugh. In this episode of Wednesday Night Live, we were joined by the guys from the VACC, our auto insurance. The hot topic on the page this month was tooling and insurance. So in your workshop, who's liable? Is it your boss that should have the policy? Is it yourself? Should you be covering your own tools? And we also talked a bit about flood cover and what are some of the requirements insurance are looking at. So we hope that this podcast is helpful for you guys and that you guys enjoy it.
I suppose I'll take the lead on this, but we're joined here by the boys from the VACC. So I've got John Eaton, I've got Narav, James, and then obviously the usual suspects, Mike, Jeff, and myself.
Where's Costa?
Where's Costa? Costa's away at the moment.
It's his missus's birthday, so they're out for dinner. So I'm
So-
just throwing him under the bus. That's right.
I wouldn't do that.
So it's been a month since we've seen each other. Yes, on the Wednesday Night Live.
Yeah, last time we caught up, it was the beginning of the AAA
Yep.
Expo.
Was
Yeah,
indeed, and
pretty
that was pretty good. I did have a very enjoyable time.
And massive apologies, James. We couldn't hear you at all inside that. We were supposed to be doing this on that Wednesday. It was a bit of a disaster. We couldn't hear anything. We had, as they say, IT mic issues. I'm usually
That's right.
They blame me for every IT thing that goes wrong. But yeah, we had some issues there at the show. So
Yeah. Well, did you want to have a real quick discussion on the AAA? We got a very good opportunity to sort of go through head office at the VACC as well, which was extremely enjoyable. And you guys went live from the library as well.
yeah, we got to tour the new VACC building down there in North Melbourne. Is it North Melbourne? The really close to the city. A beautiful new building, amazing building. I think it's fantastic. I think we should be so proud, guys. It's a lovely place to go to work every day.
Definitely.
But yeah, no, in the library, we got to tour the library. So you can check out that video that Costa and I did from inside the library. The library just blows you away. And obviously you get access to all of that library and that online technical help if you're part of, if you buy Haynes, Motortech. I talk to Nariv. He's there. If anyone wants to buy it, make a comment. But yeah, the show was really good. I think it was a little bit quieter than it normally is. No international exhibitors, but I think we all had a really good time. We had a couple of great events, drinks on the Friday night and drinks on the Saturday night, and all of our members that came down to the show we gave away a lot of prizes. The Motortech guys gave away a lot of stuff. You gave away the little engine, the twin
Engine models, they were great.
the engine model, which is fantastic. And yeah, I think it was overall, all round, I think everyone it was a successful show for all the exhibitors and everyone that was there. And it was really good for us. It was great to meet a lot of new members and a lot of people that we'd never met face to face. And we got to buy everyone beers. And, remember, we're all here for the beer.
All here for the beer. And I think there's a few other events coming up too, Mike. Yeah, like, I mean, a couple of the smaller ones is the Burson trade shows in Sydney.
Yeah, there's two Burson's trade shows in Sydney, 17th, 18th?
17th, 18th, and one's at Randwick, which I think is the 17th, and the one at Rose Hill on the 18th.
So we'll probably divide and conquer. Jeff, you're going to go with Pete down to the Randwick one. I'll be going to Rose Hill because that's my normal shopping spree. I'll be up there.
Rumor has it I'm going to both, but we'll see anyway. So
you won't recover because it's free beer.
Well, look, you've tried this before, but I'm always still standing. So
you go back up the next day. Where were you on the Saturday of the trade show?
I think somebody gave me COVID, and I'm not going to say who, but I think he's watching.
Could have been any one of us, really.
Could have been anybody.
I have to admit, the it was a super spreader event.
Yeah.
A lot of people came away with COVID. I can tell
Absolutely.
you. It was. But anyway, look, it's you only get it. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. Thank God for vaccinations and things like that.
Absolutely.
Everyone just got sick for a few days and you got over it. So
Can we get a quick sound check? And I know Pat Crowley's watching. Is the sound all good?
Did you guys, John, Nariv, how do you guys think the show went? Are you guys happy with everything that you?
Yeah, I thought it went really well, particularly the Saturday. I probably found that's when we sort of had the most number of workshop guys come through. And on the back of that, met up with a lot of workshop owners that were at the show, and the feedback was really good. Lots of good stands, lots of the sessions that were run where there was a speaker. They learned a lot of things as well. So yeah, feedback's been very positive from everyone that's attended that I've met so far, Mike.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, we've got our very own king speaker right here with Mike. Mike was on just telling everyone how it is. You did really well, Mike.
You're the speech maker.
Oh, mate, far from it. But
everyone's seen that video. Everyone likes it. Your speech at the morning tea was fantastic. So,
oh goodness.
I'm just getting used to speaking in front of people, like on stage,
on a panel with all the chairs and
and that's what I did yesterday at the Burston's Managers Conference. So that was good. So I tried to give a bit of perspective there to the Burston's Managers Conferences on in Melbourne. I had to fly down to Melbourne really on Monday night and sat on stage yesterday and gave them a customer's perspective, which was pretty good. I think a lot of them were willing to listen, and it was, some of the things that I said, guys, it's not all transactional. It's about relationships.
Yes.
As Jeff said to me the other day, I said this to them, spare parts suppliers have the ability to take our day from being a great day to being a really crap day.
Mm-hmm.
And that all sits in their hands, and what we want in the trade is independent workshops or as workshop owners is we want certainty we can get the parts, and it's not always about price. It's about them helping us get the parts, and it's spare parts to me is an extension of my business, and it's a partnership, it's not all transactional. So yeah, I'm getting better and better at speaking into a microphone, and not getting on stage and being like, shaking. Oh Jesus, what am I going to do? Yeah, so I'm getting better at that. So we'll see. There'll be more of that to come. AEC conference. There's lots happening this year. That's going to be convention. There's lots of things going on. That anyway. I don't want to think about them because I get nervous and I don't sleep properly. So that's right.
You get anxiety. Well, look, I think we can talk about them later. We can maybe post them up on the network, but maybe let's roll into some of the insurance questions. I mean, the members have asked for it, and now we have, three sort of experts on. So there were a few questions, but I suppose maybe James might take the lead a little bit on this if you want to, but
absolutely.
I suppose between the panel, like Mike, Jeff, and myself, we've got a couple of sort of more specific questions. I'm sure some of the viewers have got some questions as well. Jeff, I know, has lined up some questions, but I suppose maybe just explain a little bit about who you guys are, what you do, and we can roll in from there.
Yes, certainly. So Marsh, for those that don't know, Marsh is probably the largest insurance broker in the world. 87,000 employees globally, and represent probably the best part of 70 to 80% of the ASX top 200 listed companies for their insurance needs. From that, we also look after mid-market corporate type clients, and then all the way through to SME businesses such as yourselves in garages and whatnot around the country. And we partner very closely with the VACC and R Auto to back R Auto Insurance as the sort of go-to-market insurance provider for the VACC.
Very cool.
That's awesome. So, look, I mean, so obviously you guys provide the insurance for small workshops like us. If we're a small shop, I suppose a lot of the basic questions that have been coming through is there a minimum level of cover that you would suggest to a workshop owner, or are there certain things that are not negotiable in our workshop that we need to have?
Certainly.
Yeah.
So, look, I mean, Marsh is, and our auto insurance, we're a broker, so we don't actually write the risk. We assist garages and smash repairers and all the likes of the automotive industry to help navigate their way into the insurance market and deal with insurers that you may have heard the names of, and use specialty markets to be able to place that risk. And in terms of, covers for stores, there's always your property, for example, insuring your building and your contents and things like that. If you own the building, but certainly your contents, your fit out of your workshop. Then you have your liability. And one of the real key things with liability for certainly in the motor trade space is to ensure that you're taking covers that protect customers' vehicles, for example. So making sure that you have a policy that has a driving risk extension on the policy, so that if you are out test driving a customer's vehicle and you do have a car accident, that policy will react. We see time and time again where we see just people who purchase an off-the-shelf type liability policy that doesn't necessarily have these specialty covers or extensions within the policy to protect them. Faulty workmanship is another classic example. Things do go wrong in the business. People do make mistakes, and it's critical to have that faulty workmanship cover there to pick up those errors and those mistakes that do happen from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll be the first to admit, we've had to put a claim through for faulty workmanship as well, and it was actually no fault of our own, really, but we were just in a pretty poor circumstance, and we had no option but to sort of use our cover, and it was a good thing that we had that level of cover. I think a lot of workshop owners, firstly, don't know what they need, and then secondly, don't know the sort of the level of, if they do know what they need, they don't know what the level of cover that they
absolutely. I mean, it's different for every business, right? Every business is unique, and one of the great things about our business is we tailor every single insurance policy to the needs of that business. So we look at the individual needs of that client and what level of cover they might need to hold. But sort of broadly speaking, certainly any business out there should not be operating without at least a $20 million limit for their public liability on their motor trades pack. Reason being is, claims on liability are what we refer to as being long tail claims. So they can come a long time after the policy has ended. So you might end your policy today, but a claim may come in 5-10 years' time for works that were done or a loss that has occurred. And the limit that applies in the future is the limit that you have today. So by holding a $20 million limit with the movement of a dollar over time, $20 million in, say, 10 years' time when a claim does arise may not necessarily be enough limit to protect you. So certainly making sure at least holding a $20 million limit for public liability is really valuable.
Yeah. So James, can I ask you, in that instance, right, like if I had $10 million public liability today and I increased, and say for 12 months I had $10 million in public liability, and then I increased it to 20 million in the following year. So say 2020 I had 10 million, in 2021 moving forward I had 20 million. If I get a claim that goes back, if I get a claim in 2023, have I got that relates to something that happened in 2020 when I only had 10 million and it was $15 million of public liability? Am I covered for greater? Is it retrospective to whatever policy that you've got?
So public liability policies are largely what's called an occurrence-based policy. So it's when the claim occurred and the limit that's in place at the time of the event. So if the event occurred whilst you had a $10 million limit, then that would be the limit that's applicable. Right. So to use an example of what I'm talking about, you could be doing work on a bus, for example, a school bus, for example, and wheel comes off and children are injured as a result. a child who's under the age of 18 has until the age of 21 to bring a claim for any losses that they might sustain due to, say, not being able to work for their career, might not be able to function properly with regards to mobility and things like that. And they have until the age of 21, as I said, to bring that claim against you. They could be 10 at the time. So there's 11 years that claim could sit there before they actually bring that claim against your business. And you could look for it. So keeping in mind the movement of $1 over time, the limit you've got in place today may not be enough limit in 11 years' time when that child who's been injured brings a claim.
Yeah, I find that really interesting. So that's why it's not, you can't just keep moving your policy around to cover, you might have 20 million today. You really need to have that. Yeah,
correct. So
it's based on the date that the claim.
Absolutely. And using a broker to get that kind of advice is really critical. We see time and time again where members of VACC and things who might insure directly come to us, after having a horrific incident with a claim and things like that, and going, I didn't have any cover for this and that. And they come through us and we're able to talk them through those different covers that are available, talk them through, different options with regards to structuring their insurance program and how that might look. So certainly using a broker is critical to help navigate the insurance market, because it's contract law at the end of the day, insurance, and it's so complex. The policies are in excess of hundreds of pages, and there's so many different nuances within each different policy from different insurers.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So James, can I ask, does the level of cover that you guys offer, do you extend that to public to income protection and TPD and things like that as well for workshop owners?
Yeah, so what you're referring to there is more what we could call the life side of insurance.
Yes.
Certainly, I don't deal in that space. We have a specialty area within Marsh that does look after people risk, basically.
Yep.
What the area we're talking about largely when it comes to public liability, property insurance, your management liability of your business, is what we call general insurance, where we're insuring businesses and buildings and assets and things like that, as opposed to individual people.
So the members can't look at the VACC for that level as well?
Absolutely, they can. Absolutely, they can. It's just done through a separate area outside of myself. I personally am not licensed to give advice on life insurance. It is quite a unique specialty area within the insurance industry, which is separate from general insurance, which is where largely I play.
Well, why don't we be pretty general and just say that I think it's very important for workshop owners to make sure that they have enough cover in that regard. And, I think sometimes you can have some unfortunate incidences where you might need a level of that sort of income protection cover. And if it's not adequate, then you can definitely sell yourself short, I'd imagine. So
yes, certainly. And I mean, bringing it back to property insurance, we're seeing through COVID, the costs of buildings and rebuilding and things like that, cost of materials are increasing 30%. If you haven't looked or reviewed your sums insured in the last 12 to 24 months, you could very easily find yourself underinsured come claim time.
Yeah. Is there, what we should do? We should grab a link later on, guys, and maybe pop it on. If there's someone that we can reach out to, or if the members want to reach out to, or, maybe have a link that they can or a point of contact they can access through the VACC as well. That might be a good...
I think it's really important. You touched on a really important point there, Pete, like income protection insurance, life insurance. Life insurance is a lot of people rely on the life insurance. It's bundled into their superannuation policy, which it is there. It's mandated in that you have to have that as part of your super. But income protection insurance is tax deductible to your business. If you're a one-man show, sole trader, operator, they're all things that you need, and you need advice. You need to talk to your accountant, and you probably need to talk to a broker that does that sort of insurance to get those sorts of things. But they are really important. If you obviously if you hurt yourself and you can't work, what's going to happen? So
absolutely, mate.
And if you don't have staff that can carry on, and if you don't have staff and processes and procedures so that your business can run itself without you being there, they are really they're things that you need to take into consideration. So,
mate, absolutely. Oh, John's just popped up a link on the chat. Thanks, John.
So, Jeff, before I go to your question, I want to ask a really important question. And I was shocked about it actually, because all of my staff use my tools, so it doesn't really, James. So it's like I cover all the insurance for our shop, of course, but they're my tools. It doesn't really matter. They don't bring their own tools to work. They don't have to. I supply all of the tools and the equipment. One of our members asked the question. He was shocked because someone lost the keys to the shop, and if I remember rightly, the scenario was they were all worried about their tools. Now, some of these guys are probably, might have in excess of $30,000 worth of tools in their toolbox, and when they spoke to their boss about it, he said, "Oh, I've only got $1,000 cover for each of your toolboxes." Now, this is a two-barrel question. One, this is probably something you need to have a conversation with your boss about to make sure that your tools are covered, because he's going to pay for a policy that covers the tools in the workshop, but that's going to be an agreed value for total loss if it's a fire or even for theft, depending on how quickly they could move them out of your workshop. Of course, you've got to weigh up all those sorts of factors. But should workshop, do you guys see is there an avenue there for tradesmen to be actually insuring their own tools in someone else's shop? Because I would dare say that there's an opening there or an avenue there for a policy, because most business owners are not really going to know how much each individual, are they going to sit there and go, I've got 6 staff, 5 of those boys, if they had 30,000, that's $150,000 worth of tools I'm insuring. That's a big policy.
Absolutely. So, look, I mean, it's always an interesting one when it comes to employee-owned tools. Obviously, if all the tools, as you said, are owned by the business owner, that would be wrapped up under their own policy. So, I mean, with all insurance policies, it differs from policy to policy, right? So, most typical SME style business pack policies that we see has an extension in it for employee tools. Typically, that coverage ranges from about $1,000 to $5,000, which you and I might know is probably not enough for most mechanics who are holding their own tool chests in their employees' workshop. So with insurance, it comes back to who owns the asset. So if the employee owns the asset, then they should be looking to insure that asset. Now, there's a couple of ways they can do that. They can take out a general property policy or a tools of trade policy, which is quite easy to do through a broker. Pretty cheap cover to get, and you get, varies again from insurer to insurer, but largely speaking, you get a blanket cover of about $2,000 for any one tool, up to a set limit of sum insured. So you might elect, say, a $30,000 sum insured, and the insurer will cover anything up to the value of $2,000 with multiple tools up to $30,000. The alternative way, if the employer is quite generous, what they could do is look to have their broker specify the employee tools within the policy and actually itemise the tool chest and the value of the items within that. So there's a couple of ways in which it can be insured, but probably the best way and the cleanest way for any employee out there looking to cover their own tools is to take out a general property tools of trade policy to cover their own assets that they own.
Yeah, because I suspect there's a lot of people out there that are underinsured.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, Mike. We see it all the time.
especially in a total loss situation like that, where the business owner's going, well, no, I've insured my tyre change and my hoists and all that stuff's going to cost me $100,000, and that's all my cover's going to cost. And I'm sorry you lost your tools, but that's what. I think that's a really, and I think a lot of it, you either need to sit down and have a talk to your boss, guys that are watching this or listening to this. I think you really need to look into that, because otherwise you're going to get left holding the can at the end of the day.
Absolutely, and a couple of $100 for a tools of trade policy if you've spent the money on the $30,000 or $40,000 of tools and a nice tool chest. Certainly, a couple of $100 on some insurance for them is money well spent.
And it would be tax deductible anyway.
Absolutely.
You give that to you, tax deductible for you every year. So that's, anyway, that was one. And I do have one more question, but I'll come back to that one later. So Jeff, you got.
So I'm just reading the comments. We've got Chris Cicatelli. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah.
We had this discussion with our insurer. We have a small amount in our policy, I believe $5,000, and it changes based on theft or total loss.
Yeah.
So it might be a conversation that CJ might need to have with his staff and say, guys, listen, we're going to get some advice, and it's probably up to you guys if you've got the assets to consider maybe some level of cover for yourselves as well.
I think it needs to be up front and on the table beforehand. Otherwise, it'll end up very messy later on.
Yeah.
Like if I turned around and said to you, look, I've got $5,000 worth of cover on your tools. If you believe there's, if you're okay with that, that's the cover I'm going to extend. That's what you're going to get. That's what's in our policy. Obviously, to change that, it's going to cost more money. Now, do you want to contribute to that, or do you want to not get? It's a two-way street for the business owner. So someone's got to cover the insurance. So, and I think, as James said, I think it's easier when you own the tools. Like the reality.
If you move employers, it becomes messy. If you've got your tools covered under your employer and things like that, it becomes a bit messy then. And if you do cease your employment for someone and move somewhere else, then you could find a situation where you don't necessarily have your tools insured all of a sudden.
Yeah, and I think it's also a situation where you're buying tools and you're buying things and you're adding to it, and that's continually changing, which means you're then continually having to make sure that the business owner's updating the policy for that. Now he might be not wanting, I don't know, I mean, he should be monitoring his policy and updating things, but you know what I mean? Like you might go, oh, I've just spent another $3,000 with Snap-on or $5,000 with Snap-on this year, and the policy didn't get updated. And it's
bought two 10 mil spanners.
I think the key is having a good broker. A bit like what Mike was saying before about, with Bursons and it's having good service. And I think if you've got a good broker that can give you the right advice at the right time and ask the right questions, I think that's what's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the sayings we love using at the moment in insurance is lack of information is just filled with premium. So if you're not having that two-way conversation with your broker, telling them about changes in your business when you buy new hoists, when you buy new wheel balances and lead breakers, whatever it may be, scan tools, when you're buying that equipment, speak to your broker, because you need to be changing your sums insured. I mean, a scan could cost you best part of $6,000. If you're running close to the wind on your insured, then a change like that, installing a new hoist, dropping $30,000 on a hoist, you should be talking to your broker about those changes within your business.
Yeah.
So it might be a good transition into the floods then, Mike. You had a couple of questions about that. I mean, I definitely feel sorry for anyone that got affected by them, and I really hope that they've got the adequate level of cover that they need. But I'm assuming they need cover for workshop tools, scan tools, workshop equipment, and I suppose if they're not updating that on a regular basis, then they might be underinsured. If you've got hoists that are old and then they need to be renewed, and new hoists are expensive and you don't have adequately.
Sorry, Pete. We've got Chris Ciccatelli has responded. Ciccatelli, it is just told me. But as the insurer, would the policy cost keep changing for the private technician as he moved premises based on the premises security measures such as cameras, alarms, flood prone? Sorry, I can't speak. Flood prone area. Insurance is so complex. A flat rate would be great. I'm no insurance expert, but I don't think there could be a flat rate policy. But
yeah, so coming back to the point about tools, so a general property policy is for basically insuring business assets that frequently go off site or change locations and move and things like that. So it's not actually tied to any information there regarding security and the environment and whatnot that the tools are housed in. It's more driven around the asset value and the sum insured that's needed for those tools. It's a policy for covering things that are portable and movable, and which toolboxes and the like are obviously small portable tools that move around. So a general property and tools of trade policy is what you need for that.
And that's not related to because as much as we've got security systems and camera systems, but it doesn't seem to change the cost of the policy. I think years ago it used to. I don't think it does anywhere near as much as it does today. But I know that obviously you'd have to have a duty of care to secure your tools.
More what that stuff or that security measure, what we call it COPE info in our world. Essentially, what that drives these days is whether or not an insurer wants to actually offer you terms, like wants to offer you the cover. If you've got no protections in place, chances are you'll struggle to get your insurance.
Yeah, okay.
To get insurance terms.
So James, I'm assuming that that insurance policy is the same as very similar to what plumbers and builders would use on building sites in their lockbox. They've got their tools in lockboxes.
Correct.
It's very similar to the same way tradesmen work in other
exactly the same, Mark.
Yeah. Okay. So
excellent.
All right. Well, that answers CJ's.
Yeah, you good there, Chris? Yeah,
but it's definitely got to be, like you said, Mike. Got to be an open conversation between you and your staff, and setting, expectations and working through it together to make sure that you've got an outcome.
I think it was a really good point that was brought up on the page. It was brought up a few months ago. I don't know. I can't remember who brought it up, but I looked at it and went, "That's a really, really good point," because I reckon there's a lot of people out there that are underinsured. So it's a really good time to
I think people just presume, everyone's got the, you're not going to give me a job. I've got tools. Of course, you've covered my tools, but maybe it's a question that people need to ask.
Well, the reality, I think the problem is most people will probably for a total loss, you're probably underinsured. So the reality is you go to, you have a fire and everything, all your hoists get destroyed, everything gets destroyed, and then you go to replace it all, and obviously inflation. Cost of replacing everything, you might be insured for 150 grand. You find out it's going to cost you 180 grand to replace all of your equipment, and you go, geez, I've got to put my hand in my pocket for 30 grand. Then your staff member comes up to you and says, mate, I only got 5 grand.
Yeah, I've got 30K worth of tools in this toolbox.
And he goes, well, I need the 30 grand worth of tools. So, and then you go, hang on, I'm out 30 grand just to get everything back in the shop, all the big equipment that we need back in the shop. So you sort of, I don't know. I think it's more. I think it's a double barrel thing here at the moment, because you've got workshops that are probably underinsured for refitting because of the cost of refitting, and you've also then got, if there's enough room in there, and it's the other way around, and you've insured for 160 grand and you can replace all the equipment for 150, you could go to the insurer and say, well, the boys have lost 30 grand each worth of tools.
Well, maybe you just tell them everything was Snap-on, and then
that's fraud.
Oh, I think we've lost Pete. I think Pete's just disappeared.
Yeah, Pete's gone.
It's,
Yeah, no, look, I had some questions about the floods. I noticed it was actually last night on the news where they were talking about lots of Sydney and lots of the country being totally uninsurable, which someone actually mentioned this on the page and said how you can't get insurance for floods. And I always thought you could get insurance, but geez, it's going to cost a hell of a lot.
Yeah, look, I mean, floods an interesting, right? I mean, on the claims, just to rattle off some stats, $2.32 billion has been incurred to date on just the southern Queensland and northern New South Wales floods. 168,000 claims lodged and 159,000 outstanding claims to be lodged. So you're talking, massive volume of claims that insurers are getting hit with at the moment.
Yeah.
In terms of flood, it is an offer and acceptance cover. Generally speaking, like all of the discussion today, if flood is you have to request it, and that again comes back to a broker requesting that cover. Insurers are backed by a lot of data these days too. They are looking at flood mapping down to no longer just on the suburb, they're looking at flood mapping down to the street number. So you could literally have your neighbour being able to get flood cover from the insurer, but if the flood mapping data shows that your property is susceptible to flooding, you may not be able to get flood cover at your address. Even neighbour is able to get it. So insurers are quite sophisticated around their flood mapping now, more so than they were probably going back 10, 11 years prior to the Brisbane floods. Brisbane floods certainly shook up the industry around flooding, and insurers certainly made a big change post the Brisbane floods to map a lot closer and understand where water moved in the event of a flood event.
Yeah, right. So do you think on the other side of these floods, do you think there'll be people that will be refused cover? They might get paid out this time, but they might not be able to it'll be harder for them to get cover moving forward.
Oh, certainly. I won't shy away from that comment. Absolutely. I think there will be businesses out there that might have flood currently who get their claims paid, but certainly come renewal may struggle to afford the flood cover on renewal. Yeah, certainly.
So that's pretty full on, because I know that there was a couple of members that actually got affected quite bad. Is it something that maybe moving forward, if they can't get cover, it might be something that they have to put a little kitty aside for, and
certainly, I think it's even bigger than that, Pete. I think it's actually becoming more of a government issue around floods. There's certain, there's basically in Queensland, for example, there's probably only really a handful of insurers that we can go to that are willing to write risks up there. The insurers are looking to remove cover for catastrophe events like cyclone, but also new catastrophe events like hail. Traditionally, insurance policies have always had higher excesses for named cyclones and things like that. You'll see probably within your policy a $20,000 excess for a named cyclone if you're in far north Queensland. But certainly now we're seeing insurers start to impose either sub-limits on hail damage, or look to impose higher excesses for hail damage, or look to simply exclude hail damage completely from a policy.
Wow.
Because the fact they're seeing events that occurred events that would occur every 100 years, they're now seeing every 10.
Yeah, that's right. I can't. That realistically, I mean, this is a little bit off topic, but that's why I believe in climate change. We need to do something about climate change. We can't keep having 1 in 100 or 1 in 500 or 1 in, every year we're having a 1 in 100 year event. Now we're going to a 1 in 500 year event. It's going to, the cost of doing business is going to go through the roof.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
because we're not doing enough. So whether you believe in climate change or not, I just don't believe these things didn't happen when I was a kid. I mean, I'm 45, 46 years old.
Are you, Mike?
No, tell the truth.
Hey,
tell the truth.
I reckon you're a bit older, mate.
Yeah, right.
Hey.
But I know, hang on, something I did notice. I've noticed this with my boat insurance. They now put a thing. You're not insured if you're north of the Tropic of Capricorn. So, like, because of cyclone risks and things like that, with my boat insurance, it's like if the boat, you know, big disclosures on there. If the boat's stored north of the Tropic of Capricorn, you need to, you need to let us know when it's there, and there might be exclusions and cover. But
yeah, right.
I'm sorry.
It's really, I'm noticing more clauses, like you're saying about hail. I haven't seen anything like that, but with I'm noticing more clauses as I'm renewing policies and looking at some of the fine print. So
yeah, certainly. I mean, in terms of losses in the last 18 months, the catastrophe losses within Australia, I mean, this is still a figure that's growing, is at $6.38 billion in 18 months, just out of catastrophe loss events that have occurred.
So, James, can I ask? So, in your
floods, fires in Perth, cyclones.
Yeah, no, I was going to ask. So is this why they're talking about reinsurers not wanting to come back to Australia, like Swiss Re, and I'm assuming Swiss Re is probably the largest reinsurer in the country, because
they're certainly one of them. Yes, I mean, all insurers are with the exception of a few. Most insurers buy what's called reinsurance, Mike. Essentially, it's insurance for insurance companies. Your CGUs, QBEs, what have you, might write the first $100 million worth of loss, even the first $200 million worth of loss. They then go and buy insurance to protect themselves over and above that, to protect their balance sheets. So that's sort of what you're referring to there, Mike. But yeah, reinsurers are basically saying to insurers like your household brands, CGU, Allianz, we're not prepared to write these types of risks.
Yeah, right. That's
interesting. You had a pretty interesting question, Mike, about earthquake. Do you remember what that was?
Yes. No. Well, that was one that affects all of us, right? There was an earthquake in Melbourne late last year, I think it was, wasn't it? Was it late last year? Or was it the year before?
No, I think it was the year before.
With COVID, the years all blended into one. There was an earthquake in Melbourne, and there was a guy had a car on a hoist, and the car was shaking on the hoist, and he said, if this car falls off the hoist, it's an act of God. Am I covered? What's the scenario?
That would be an interesting one. I mean, broadly speaking, it would probably fall within the public liability policy because you're working on the vehicle at the time. So yes, probably speaking, Mike, that probably would be a covered event if it was on the hoist up in the air and you're working on it. That would be a public liability claim for damage to a third party's property.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of public liability too, I know that myself included, we rent the premises that we operate our workshops from, and one of them actually requested that we had 10 million public liability, and that was when we first leased 10 odd years ago, and the other at the newest shop that we had requested a 20 mil public liability. So it's really important for the guys watching as well to sort of understand that if they are going to start business, and there will be, the landlord might actually request that you have a level of public liability when you rent their premises. So very important to note.
Absolutely.
And same with who you're working for. When I was doing work for the New South Wales government, they requested $20 million in public liability. And we changed, at the time, I think we had 15. We changed it to 20. I've never changed it back, but I always wondered what the, like I said before, it's interesting to know that changing it's not going to retrospectively protect you.
Changing from a $10 million limit to a $20 million limit on, as a dollar figure, it sounds like a lot. But in actual premium sense, it's probably not a lot. for an individual mechanic to change from a $10 to a $20 million limit of cover.
Yeah.
So it might be worthwhile then, anyone that's watching or needs some info on it, we'll put up the link, because there's probably like, I know I'm going to, off the back end of this, go and just double check all my.
I'll double check mine.
Please do, because I'm going to trip up in both of your workshops when I'm next.
That's also called fraud. We're losing it. That is my workshop in the background. So like when we hold training events, so you can see behind Jeff's head, we try to make sure there's no trip hazards. Everyone can see that. James, I do have a question, and this is a scenario I've been involved in a couple of times now, where you're working on a customer's car, you finished working on it. A lot of us don't have much parking in Sydney, so we might park a customer's car on the street. We call the customer, their car's finished. Customer comes up after they pick up their car and they go, "There's a big scratch on the side of my car. It wasn't there this morning." Who, in your experience, is that we didn't put the scratch on the side of the car? The scratch has occurred after, and the car's been parked on the street. Had nothing really to do with us. We're not accepting responsibility for the scratch. Is that then on the customer's insurance, or is that part of my insurance, or how do you see that? That scenario playing out? Because it's
certainly a common question. Yeah, certainly a common question that we get. So the thing with a public liability policy, which is where this cover sort of sits, is negligence is the number one trigger within the policy. So you have to there actually has to be an element of negligence. Parking it on the street, I'd argue, is not being negligent by the business. Certainly, if you don't have the space, right, to store the vehicle. So it would be a claim under the owner of the vehicle's policy. What would then occur in the background is their insurer would actually try to subrogate against the shop's insurance through their public liability policy to recoup those losses. So initially the claim would fall with the customer's vehicle insurance, and then in the background their insurer would then seek recovery through the shop, because it was in their care, custody, control at the time. But they would again have to prove that there was some form of negligence by the shop owner.
Okay, so in that situation, we could quite easily say to the customer, "Well, you make a claim on your insurance. Tell them that it was in my care and my control at that time, and then get them to contact me." It's just that I probably need a better way of dealing with that, because sometimes I'm like, "Well, it's not really our fault. We called you 2 days ago to pick up your car. We had it in the car park for a day. You didn't come that day. We put it on the street and sat on the street ever since, and you've taken 4 days to pick the car up. I can't be responsible for your car when you didn't pick it up." So I mean, all of that's probably documented. We did have one of our really good members had a couple of cars that he parked on the street, and that part of the street flooded, and that was very similar. It was totally out of his control, but yeah, I don't that in a similar circumstance, very similar circumstance. I've had a couple of those where I've said to the customer, "Look, I don't think it's happened. There's no way that could have happened on that side of the car where the car's parked. But as a matter of goodwill, I've contributed to pay some of their excess. As a business owner, I've done that. I've been doing this for 3 generations, so we've had plenty of instances where people have, where it has been nothing to do with us, but we've also just tried to keep the peace and
yes,
people. It's obviously about customer service. We've had other instances. My first instance.
One thing we see is theft, for example, of customers' vehicles, and if the keys are left out of, say, a lock safe or a key safe or something like that, and they're just left in the top drawer or whatever, well, there's an element of negligence there by the business. So yes, that would absolutely be a claim on the business's liability insurance for that customer's vehicle. But if the keys are in a lock safe and the business has done all the measures that they could be reasonably expected to do with a vehicle in their control, and there still is a theft event, then that wouldn't trigger a negligence under their policy, and would need to go back to a motor vehicle insurance on the customer's vehicle.
Yeah, because my first experience of that was when I was an apprentice. We had a police chase. The guys in the stolen car drove through our service station, sideswiped 3 cars on the street, which were all our customers' cars, and we were insured with VACC back then. I remember vividly, and they were like, "No, it's not. It's on their insurance. It's not. You're not negligent." All those customers were called. They were waiting to pick up their cars. It was 4:30 in the afternoon, and it was all on their insurance.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing to remember is your insurance policy is there to defend you as the owner of the business. So if it is alleged that you were negligent, then your insurance policy would react to defend your position. So that's where there would be a claim on your policy. So if there's an allegation of negligence, then there would be a claim under your policy.
Yeah, but I think that gives me a really good, for me personally, that gives me a very good understanding of how to deal with that with the customer. It's like, look, you put a claim in on your policy. Let's not have an argument about it now. You put a claim in on your policy, and if you believe we've been negligent, your insurance company will contact us and our insurance company, and we'll work out what happens from there.
Best advice we always give to our clients is there's not a lot of point in the shop owner and the customer having a beef over it. Let the insurance companies do that. They've got money to burn and to argue with each other on. And you probably find that it's the same insurer that's sitting behind most. So they'll be cutting a check to themselves.
Yeah. Okay. That's all right.
No, that's good. Well, I think there's quite a bit of food for thought there, isn't there? When you're saying, Mike, about the floods, we're actually going through a bit of a rigmarole now. We're one of them. So we repaired a customer's car, and he was away overseas, and he requested that we leave the car outside, and he'll pick it up, in a few days' time when he arrives back from the States. So we left the car outside, and it just so happened to be that week that we had the downpours, and it got water in the fuel tank. So the whole of Robert Street got flooded, and whatever got water in the fuel tank. We didn't know any better. He drove the car up the street, and it cut out. And he said, "Oh well, the repair you did is no good." And we soon found out that it's a totally different repair altogether, because it's got water in the fuel now, and he's sort of chasing us down. And exactly like you said, James, we sort of said, "Look, that's cool. We don't want to get into beef with one another over it. So we'll just let you discuss with your party, and then they can discuss with our party, and we'll just move forward from there, because you guys can sort it out. I've got other things to worry about,
Absolutely.
You got to keep making money to pay your insurance company.
Pay the insurance company. Right. But
James in his beautiful house where the sun shines all the time.
If you've got a very good broker, they'll look for the best deal for you. That's the
correct,
thing.
And absolutely, Peter. As I said before, lack of info gets filled with premium by insurers.
But look, let's.
Keep asking questions.
This was said to me as well. Sometimes it's not also about and you probably attest to this too, James. It's sometimes not about the money; it's the level of cover that you're going to get. So if you sort of say, okay, well, look, the policy is going to be a little bit cheaper, it's better. It might not necessarily be, because you might find that there's exclusions there that you need in your policy.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So every insurance policy is different. There's no two policy wordings the same. It's a bit of a boring existence being an insurance broker, because we have to read these things cover to cover and know them in and out. But yes, every policy is different. So utilising a broker who lives and breathes this stuff is key to making sure that you have the best cover available. Especially
in the automotive field as well. So you guys know this field quite well.
Oh, absolutely. We have thousands of mechanics that we that we look after. We have in excess of 5,000 mechanics and smash repairers and body shops that we look after. We have in excess of 900 tyre retailers that we look after around the country.
And it's like
automotive space.
You said, Mike, earlier that you guys were insured with the VACC as well. I was talking to my dad, who's also a mechanic, about this, and I said, I'm doing a live Zoom with some of the guys from the VACC, their insurance arm, and he said, oh, yeah, we were insured with them back when I had the shop as well. So it's been such a long-standing...
we contributed to that building.
That's where you guys essentially started out, isn't it? Insurance. Is it?
Yeah,
versed in the history of VACC insurance.
Yeah.
Certainly as I walk around some of the older shops in Victoria and around the country, you still see stickers of VACC insurance sitting on guys' walls.
There you go. And it's moved to it's now called our auto insurance, yes? So just for the
correct, yeah.
That want to know. So look, definitely very very important that we put the link on. So anyone that needs to get some advice or speak to someone has a point of contact. But you guys are, from all the staff that I've met, they're pretty forthcoming and sort of open books. So it's, if any of our members sort of need you guys, they can certainly reach out.
Absolutely. For anyone out there, I strongly recommend you look to get your insurance reviewed. Contacting either us or your broker, 6 to 8 weeks prior to your insurance renewal will give you the best outcome. It gives us as brokers time to go and explore the market. With all the claims that I rattled off before, insurers are busy. At the moment, they're short-staffed with all the claims. So they are slow in terms of turnaround time. So certainly starting your insurance review cycle 8 to 6 weeks out from your insurance renewal date will absolutely put you in the best place to ensure that you're getting the best cover and the best price and the best advice.
Awesome. Oh, that's good to know. So I'm definitely going to check mine definitely now off the back end of this, because there's probably a lot. I definitely need to double check my public liability if Jeff comes into my shop again. So,
I'm worried now. I'm meant to be going to the snow. I might have to get some personal cover.
Actually, that is one thing that I would definitely urge a lot of the guys to double check, is they've got an adequate level of their sort of personal cover. I know from firsthand experience that when my father got sick, he did not have the adequate level of cover, and it really affected them, mum and dad, quite badly when they weren't getting paid quite what they should have been, and it was off the back end of sort of being a bit complacent and maybe not reviewing that moving forward. And everyone's wages go up and up and up slowly over the years, and you might not review it for some time, and all of a sudden you're underinsured. So definitely. For any sort of business owners out there, definitely jump on and double check their sort of life cover, I suppose. Is that what you call it, James? It's life cover?
Yeah, correct. So, check all your life insurance and your health insurance and things like that, So,
not general insurance. Can't talk to James about it, he told you.
Yeah, okay. The life piece is a whole different beast. Insuring people is a challenging part of our world.
We should have stuck with a disclaimer. At the beginning, all advice is general in nature.
General advice.
No, we just throw it in now. Everything that we do is general in nature.
Yeah, correct. All advice provided today is of a general nature. Hasn't taken your personal circumstances into consideration.
That's right.
That's exactly right.
That's right.
Or your business circumstances or anything like that, or your flood risk or anything like that.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, look, Jeff, have you got any questions from the guys?
So. I haven't got any questions from the live. A couple of people are agreeing. I'm monitoring what's the comments on live. But in March, Brian Clow basically drove a car into his workshop for a repair, and the engine failed. Nothing to do with what he did. he tried to claim us on his insurance, and his insurer told him no, he wasn't covered for assumed liability. So he was suggesting people check their policies for something called assumed liability.
Well, I don't know what that means.
Something that I haven't heard of before.
James, you heard of that?
Yeah, so they're going into specifics on this individual circumstance. Assumed liability is where you agree to indemnify somebody else under your policy. It's always advised that if you are looking to enter in any kind of contract like that, where you might be taking on somebody else's exposure, that you contact your broker and just check that through your insurance policy and check that through to make sure that it's covered. Because yes, you can get caught out on that front.
Interesting, yeah.
So basically, just contact your broker if you're unsure.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's what we're here for. We actually love speaking to our clients. You know, we want to hear from you. Speak to us. Get to know your broker. We love hearing from you, and we love talking insurance. So reach out to us with your questions, no matter how silly you think they might be. That's what we're here to do. That's why you're paying a broker to provide you that advice. You don't go to it. You don't get law advice online or anything like that. So you pay a lawyer's fee, pay a broker to give you the right advice.
Great. Now, just a question that I had as well, and this is probably more for, I suppose, just for the business owners. I know a lot of business owners might have, courtesy cars and maybe their own cars. Is that something that's separate to these policies, or can you tack them onto these policies?
Yeah, certainly.
The VACC do that as well?
Yeah, so certainly it is an additional extension to have courtesy vehicles. So making sure that your policy does have that extension within it to cover courtesy vehicles. It does get covered differently from your normal motor vehicle insurance policy because of the nature of having different people driving it day in, day out. When you're talking your own personal motor vehicle insurance, the insurer knows who's driving that vehicle every day. But with courtesy vehicles, it could be anyone that's driving that from an 18-year-old through to someone in their 70s or 80s that could be driving that vehicle that day. So it does get insured differently to your normal motor vehicle insurance.
Yeah, but definitely something that you guys can assist with.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I reckon I've asked all the questions that I want to. What about you, Mike, Jeff? Is there any sort of questions? Maybe we'll put it to the viewers as well if there's anything.
I'd like to see what the viewers have. If anybody's got any questions, we can get.
While we're waiting for that, I do have another announcement to talk about. There's some training on that. There are a few seats available for that's being run by Cool Drive. That's run next weekend in Bathurst. If anyone would like to go, it's a bit of a last minute thing. You need to reach out to Matt Douglas tomorrow. It's just a little bit off topic, but I just want to make sure we do a bit of a shout out there. This is Cool Driver running some training at TAFE on Friday the 13th, Saturday the 14th. It's in conjunction, and you get tickets to the Bathurst 12-hour. If anyone is interested, it's they're servicing the modern electric vehicle, bus diagnostics, smart charging systems, ADAS, air conditioning diagnostics, sensor diagnostic training. It's a pretty intense training.
Yeah, right.
Thing that Matt Douglas has set up with Cool Drive. And then you also get on the Saturday and the Sunday, you get access to the Pit Garage Suite and Mount Panorama Circuit, where there's a couple of other little bits and pieces with Safe Work doing a presentation, John Bright and Jamin Potts on connected repair. There's some interesting stuff there. There are a couple of spots available. If anyone was interested, please just send me a direct message. I'll tag Matt in this post, but unfortunately it closes tomorrow afternoon. You need to make a decision and you'll have to find yourself some accommodation in Bathurst. The Bathurst 12-hour is on, and
Good luck.
yeah, good luck. I think it's going to be a bit hard. But if anyone was interested, Pat's got room. Pat's got room in his room. You could just crash with Pat.
Yeah, Pat will take everybody on. Okay, so we've got a question from CJ Ciccatelli, and he had a water main burst, and it busted up the front of their shop, our cars and customers' cars. Our insurer covered us, but we had to pay the excess for everything. They said it was because urban utilities wouldn't accept the liability. Is that normal for an insurer to pass on the excess in a case like that?
So, yeah, look, typically the way it will work when there's potentially a third party that's involved, and I won't speak specifically to the case because I don't have all the facts in front of me.
General in nature.
But yeah, true. But broadly speaking, if a claim is looking like it's where there's a third party that's potentially at fault or responsible, the insurer will ask their insured to pay the excess in the first instance, and then upon a successful recovery, they will likely return that excess to you. So if the insurer will pay your claim, you pay your excess and get your claim paid. And then what they will do in the background is go against the third party that might have caused that damage at your premises. Upon a successful recovery, and a recovery can take months. It's not normally a quick process. It can take quite a few months to go through that recovery process. Upon a successful recovery, the insurer should be returning that excess to you. And that's, again, comes back to having a broker with a claims team that sits behind them. We have best part of 2,000 claims people just in Australia that manage claims here at Marsh. And our claims team constantly follow up those types of scenarios to make sure that our insureds get their excess back if they aren't at fault throughout the claim.
So basically, you'd be kicking arse on Mr. Ciccatelli's behalf.
Yeah, but basically that's our role, right? That's the role of the broker.
Let's call a spade. You know,
go in and bat for that.
Absolutely.
Therefore, we're here to bat for you.
Building relationships. That's what it's about, eh, Mike?
Yeah.
So I think the key is to have a good broker, to have somebody fighting your corner.
Absolutely.
No, cool. Good stuff. Well, look, I mean, I suppose we're not going to keep anyone too much longer. Is there anything that you guys, or I suppose the Garage Network boys wanted to address before we sort of round out? If it's even just general sort of, I mean, you mentioned Cool Drive, Mike.
Yeah, Cool Drive's got that training coming up. Bathurst 12-hour. Good opportunity there if anyone wants to do anything good.
I think there's somebody else that's got some training coming up, isn't there, Mike?
Oh yeah, we do. We've got some online training coming up. They've got Brandon Steckler coming up. We've got in July, July and October. In July, we've got
WPS,
yes. In October, we have
I've got it written down somewhere, but it was.
Look, just keep an eye out. They're coming up live. They'll be live and available to buy very shortly.
The WPS one is going to be awesome. Brandon Steckler is the king of pressure. Not in stress. Is in pico pressure or oscilloscope pressure. So
so we've got I'm really looking forward to the WPS because that's going to be run on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and then a Tuesday and a Thursday because it's an 8-hour course. It's a big one, and we're just going to try to give you a bit of a break on the Wednesdays in between. I wanted to ask about Rocky. All I can see is
Balboa.
All the medals. What are all the medals for?
Well, Narav's a boxer, you know, don't you?
Soccer.
Nah,
soccer.
He boxes.
Mate, you could have said something a bit more exciting like UFC or something a bit more, you know.
If I stand up, everyone will know it's not true then.
But Jeff, if you paid him the rest of his money for Phil Forson's,
Look, I tell you what, I think that money gave me COVID.
Yeah. That was the money that gave you
as well as
Crowley,
James, Gavin, and Narav. Yeah, I think I'm going to blame you all.
Goodness. But look, guys, I mean, I just wanted to extend a massive thanks for jumping on today and giving us a bit of an insight as to what sort of level of insurance we need, what we, answering some of our questions and some of the members' questions. And we very much appreciate you jumping on board.
Okay, John, you haven't said anything. You okay?
Right. It's been hard to get a word in with you guys. No, look, it was great to meet you. It was great to meet you guys at the Quad A Expo, and obviously our relationship with James and at Marsh is second to none. As a VACC, as you probably know, Mike, we're a membership organisation, not for profit, so to have Marsh as our backer is fantastic. We've got many of our members insured with Marsh, and I've never heard a complaint against them. So talk to James, talk to his team. They're a great team, and they'll definitely help you. You've got Narav there. He's based in Sydney, so I'm just going to put his details out as well, just in case anyone up there needs to speak to Narav directly. And obviously I'm based down here in Melbourne, but we're really excited about our relationship with the Garage Network. Great bunch of guys. I know your policy about joining the Garage Network, so you've definitely continued that on beautifully with you boys. And I do remember, Jeff, on the Saturday you walked past me about 11 o'clock, I think it was. You looked very green, and you were on your way back to the hotel room. So I can definitely vouch that you had a big Friday night. So
I think that was a big week.
He didn't.
Yeah,
I rang him 29 times to go, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? He missed Pete's speech. He was passed out somewhere.
We knew you were.
Actually,
just to clear this up, but I think that's when I think I contracted COVID off Narav. I have the thing. I cannot sleep in. Like I'm up at sort of 5-6 a.m. most mornings.
I'll vouch for that.
I'm not particularly. I'm not really sociable at that hour, but I'm awake. I've got things going on, and I'm always working on several different things at once. I think I was actually quite ill. I didn't drink any beer. I did drink one beer on Saturday night.
I have to admit, I think that was the beginning of your COVID thing. Because
I've
never seen you. I have never. You're always up you always answer your phone. You're always up early in the morning. And I think I must have rang you. I don't want to know how many missed calls you had from me, because I just kept ringing you, going, "Are you alive? Are you okay?" Yeah. It's like, where are you? You're not at this meeting. You're not at this morning tea. What's going on? It was.
Yeah, he didn't look.
Definitely.
I think what it was, the boys from VACC looked after us. We were at their stand most days, and I think we were just I think Narav given me COVID.
we're using that story. We're sticking to it. Don't worry.
And I do want to thank the ACC, and you did look after us at the event, and we all had a good laugh, and it was great. It's good to be partnered with the right people. So I just wanted to reach out and thank you all.
Absolutely. Yeah, we feel the same. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's great. And thanks for letting us on your FaceTime here today. And we're happy to answer any questions. If you need support, if you need technical repair information, insurance, just give us a call.
Yep.
We're definitely happy to give you some look through our systems.
I've got the links up as well, and we might just put them via a post as well, and put that on a little bit later. But guys, thank you very much for. I think we'll wrap up, guys. Thank you very much for coming. And we'll speak to you guys soon. If the members have any questions, feel free to reach out to the boys at the VACC.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
Don't forget to join our private Facebook page if you are an automotive technician, and also subscribe to our YouTube and our podcast channel. They are all called The Garage Network. Thanks, guys, and see you next time.